Prime Minister Modi attend the G7 summit meeting in Italy and then to make an official visit to Russia should not be viewed by any country, especially the United States or some Western countries, as a surprising move. Ever since the outbreak of the Ukrainian war in 2022, India has been positioning itself as a good friend of the Western countries, of the United States in particular, but also as a traditional friend and partner of Russia. India considered it as a very smart move on its behalf because it simply wants to do the best deal for the interest of India. If we look at India and Russia, several things really stand out in striking manners. One is the military-to-military cooperation. Now, the second thing now is that Russia wants to become more and more important exporter of energy resources to India, especially crude oil. And possibly, if they can get their acts together, natural gas through pipelines, hopefully, through Central Asia or other regions, delivering natural gas produced in Russia to India. Now, this will be a very important factor for the continuation of the industrialization and the expansion of manufacturing capabilities in India, because without a very reliable, long-standing energy security policy, you cannot expect to really boost your industrialization and manufacturing capacities by a big margin, especially for a large population like India's. Now, I think going forward, Russia may actually draw upon the huge labor sources from India, meaning creating all kinds of possibilities so that the younger people in India, both men and women, can find meaningful jobs in Russia in different sectors. And that may actually last for quite a few years because of the rapid decline in population in Russia and also the huge loss of manpower in the Ukrainian war. And eventually, I think Russia needs to turn around to see which country can really provide steady supply of labor to Russia. India can be one of the best countries that Russia can draw upon such huge labor resources in the coming years and coming couple of decades. And I do believe that going forward, either under Prime Minister Modi or in the future governments in India, this Indian-Russian connection will always remain a very important part of India's independent foreign policy. Purely from the American perspective, I don't think the real agenda of Washington is meant for the betterment of India. Washington is more interested in how to make use of India, to leverage off on India to achieve America's own self-proclaimed geopolitical goals. Now, from India's perspective, this may not be the best solution because India wants to line up all the resources for the maximum benefit of India's economic development. Therefore, I think America's agenda and the Indian agenda may not always overlap with each other and correspond to each other. And India needs to use its own independent mind to come up with its own conclusion as to what Washington is really aiming to do with India. And I think for India to follow its independent foreign policy will be the best choice for India. Therefore, if India loses its sanity and loses its independence of mind and try to build itself as a surrogate or as a puppet of the United States in its geopolitical antagonism against China on the one hand, it may not work for India's benefit at all. From Washington's perspective, now that Washington is adopting the maximum hostility policy against China, Washington wants to line up an alternative potential market. And India actually fits all the requirements from Washington's perspective in terms of the size of the population, the size of the potential market, and the potential upside of the economic development. That Washington is not interfering in the domestic internal affairs of India and is really treating India as an equal country, equal partner. That remains to be seen. Further, allow me to emphasize another point. For India to really achieve profound, complete economic and technological transformation in the coming years and coming couple of decades, India needs to stick to the policy of peace rather than confrontation with its neighboring countries or regional wars, for example, because that will overturn any ambition of India to improve and expand its economic activities for the benefit of the Indian people.